This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let me go.
Well, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the After Stangs Show presented by Mosquito Shield. I'm Billy Embody. With me, Dean Ralsky. We are here at Chug's Bagels in Mockingbird Plaza. Get your after-hours orders in. It is now that time of night where the celebration for some might be winding down, and it's a perfect way to satisfy those taste buds after SMU just beat the brakes off of TCU 66-42. But before we dive into the game, Dean, we got to remind you guys that we are presented by Mosquito Shield. Andrew Galloway and his wife, Caroline, started their family business here locally in DFW, taking care of your mosquito spraying needs. It is that time of season where you need to have them out. But guess what? You don't even need to have them out to have them spray. There's no need to have a person come out and give you a quote. They can do it all while you're just setting it up with them over the phone, and you can pay through a portal. It's so easy. And then they just show up based on your acreage and your size of your yard and area. They take care of it all for you. So use code PONYUP for their best pricing of the remainder of the season. And services are available across DFW and other Texas locations. Call 214-775-0622. They're coming to my house on Monday. They're going to get us all set up for that best time of year. It's going to start to cool down, we think, soon. And I want to sit outside after we get done covering college football and maybe watch a little late night game, and want to do that without mosquitoes all over us. So moshield.com is where you go to get more information, and use Mosquito Shield today to take care of your yard and all those mosquitoes. Dean, I've been covering this rivalry now. I've been a part of it for 1 year, but covering this rivalry for a long, long time. And SMU has not had that type of a beatdown of TCU in all three phases in a long, long time. 66-42 is the final score in this one. And I just want to say before we really dive into the actual game that for the last 2 weeks on the message board, it was an absolute miserable, sad place to be. And it was almost like some people were, quite frankly, wish casting a little bit to see this fail, to see Kevin Jennings fail because they liked the Preston Stone, or they hated Rhett Lashley's play calling throughout his time here, or they had some axe to grind that they felt validated with that loss to BYU. And SMU flipped the script on them and showed where this program is as far as a developmental program in terms of all three phases. They've improved special teams. Their defense improved last year, and they've shown they're still a strong unit. I know the score kind of doesn't necessarily reflect that at times, but they got stops when they needed. They got turnovers. And SMU's offense, by the way, what did we talk about with Kevin Jennings taking over? They needed to be able to run the ball. They needed to play clean, and for the most part, they did. And if you control the clock, and we talked about it on the board, if SMU can get to that 40 carry mark, they got to 42, they would have a really good chance to win. They made a lot of people look like idiots. I picked TCU because I hadn't seen SMU actually do it. I knew what the blueprint was, and they did that for the most part tonight. I didn't see a crazy, not shootout because it wasn't. It was domination, but a high-scoring affair like it was. But this is where college football is. Week to week, game by game, you can see people try to wrangle their thoughts on where their team is or where they think their program is, and then you get shown why these are still 18 to 25, I guess, year-old kids with their COVID years. And you see why in today's day and age, it is hard to wrangle a team and get them focused and on their P's and Q's and all of those things. But Rhett Lashley and his staff did that. They made changes, and they came out and played their absolute ass off start to finish. And they came away with the 66-42 win and Rhett Lashley's first Power Conference win.
You know, I didn't think I'd be sitting here looking at this score 2 weeks ago. I really didn't. I thought if SMU was going to win this game, it would be low scoring. and a nail biter. But SMU hit the over by themselves tonight, which was pretty impressive. And as you said, the defense played really well, and giving up 42 points really does not reflect how well they played. It was a complete performance. And, fans have been upset about the inconsistency of SMU, but I think every college football team in the country is dealing with that right now as you look across the country in the scores. But SMU found a way to win tonight, got that first Power 4 win, and you can't ask for a better way to do it if you're SMU fans than beating TCU. And we'll get to it later, but what could very well be the final iron skillet game for the foreseeable future. And so now you've just got to take a deep breath, and you're 3-1, and you haven't played an ACC game yet. You've got 1-3 Florida State coming to town next week. They got the win over Cal. So you absolutely can celebrate this for a day or two, but then you just got to reset and get ready for the next one.
Well, and SMU fans have to rest up for next weekend, and we'll talk a lot more about Florida State and all that. This isn't the podcast for that, but it is such a big opportunity next week to keep the momentum going. And the crowd tonight was unbelievable. And I thought, in all my years, it just really felt like they impacted the game. The students being behind TCU. Obviously, Sonny Dykes gets ejected. We'll talk about that, but let's try to make sense of this game. And if you were to tell me that SMU would have come out and scored on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their first 8 drives, I would have probably said, that's a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift for this offense. But not only did they get contributions from this offense, they got it from defense, they got it from special teams. And let's start with the defense, because SMU drives down actually, I want to start with the opening drive, because we talked about starting fast.
Yep.
And SMU, to open the season, threw an interception the first drive, went 3 and out the next game against Houston Christian, went multiple 3 and outs against BYU.
Yep. And
we said this week, more than ever, they needed to establish themselves early, build confidence that they can do this. And what they do, they ate 5:08 off the game clock and went down and got a Colin Rogers 51-yard field goal, which is very normal for him at this point in a way. But I felt like that drive was so indicative of laying their cards out there, saying, we're going to run the football, we're going to make you defend all over the field. And I just felt like it was such a big confidence booster for them.
Yeah, and they didn't go out and score a touchdown and one play and go 75 yards down the field. But like you said, they took over 5 minutes off the clock, which I think was important to establish their control in this game, which they had throughout this game, for the majority of this game. And as you said, Colin Rogers drilled a 51-yard field goal. We're just used to that at this point. He's spoiling SMU fans. And then the next time they took the field, they were up 17-0, which I think took a lot of pressure off of this offense and allowed them to play as freely as they did the rest of the way.
And you look at how it all happens, right? TCU went for it on 4th down, or was that 3rd and 1 or whatever it was. And Brandon Crosley is Johnny on the spot, returns that 51 yards, and he got later called for a tough pass interference call on him. But I mean, I feel like that play really showed where this defense is at in terms of their effort level, because that play doesn't happen without guys flying around, guys being around the ball and giving everything to the play. And I think even though at times it didn't go well, there were busts, there were miscommunications that Scott Simons and his staff will clean up. In my opinion, they've shown the ability to do that. And TCU was the beneficiary of that. A couple touchdowns were double moves, miscommunication. The 1-2, Eric McAllister was wide open because they didn't have a play in. You could tell they were very confused. And for this team, they played, though, with the effort that they absolutely needed to. I thought it was key on defense.
Yeah, TCU ran the ball 32 times for 65 yards. So you're looking at just over 2 yards a carry, a really impressive showing from the defense. Now, I will say Josh Hoover said in his press conference after the game that he believes he was down on that play. He said he got the wind knocked out of him, so that's only possible if he was down. Too late for Josh Hoover. And a great heads-up play by Crossley to take it all the way to the end zone. The refs didn't blow the whistle. And so the SMU defense, similar to BYU, forced their turnovers, got the stops when they needed to. And I want to say they played consistent football. They didn't. They, as you said, had some blown plays. But they've been consistent at stopping the run, I would say, all year long. So a really nice display from the defense.
And then you get Roger Daniels, getting in on the action, and his 69-yard punt return for a touchdown is a career long for him. That's what he did against Temple last year. Such a huge play. And he broke the rock after the game, and Brett Lashley chose his words very carefully. We asked him who broke the rock. He said Roger Daniels, and then kind of brief pause there, and with a Dallas born and bred. And it's true. I mean, Roderick is one of those guys that is very much got Dallas all over him. And this one meant a lot to him, I think, to break through and to be such a big part of it with that punt return. I thought that was massive. But you look up, here come the Horned Frogs.
Well, that was the downside, if you will, to getting a defensive touchdown, special teams touchdowns. That defense is right back out there. And so you almost expected TCU to have some success on that next drive, and they did. And I believe they converted a fourth down and eventually got into the end zone to get on the board. And so the defense had that amazing start, but they had to stay in it because, as you said, that 17-point lead evaporated quickly.
And we talked about how the offense second drive was up 17-0, and Kevin Jennings and Brett Lashley said he ripped him in the press conference after, but we watched it live. He was ripping him. He fumbles. I couldn't really see a replay of it, but it kind of just seemed like it just squirted out. Like it wasn't it wasn't controlled. He's got to wrap that up, and TC was able to capitalize on it.
And we saw a near fumble on that first drive too, where forward progress maybe saved Kevin Jennings. The refs weren't able to review the play, and so SMU played a great game, but there will still be things they need to work on this week in practice. Ball security will be one of them.
Yeah. And then they, give up 14 unanswered to TCU. And I think one of the biggest moments in the game was them going down on that third drive and responding. And not only responding with a touchdown, but Ja'Kai Clark goes down, and he ended up coming back. And, I mean, kudos to him. I don't know how he did it. I mean, I got to imagine it's one of those things that guys talk about, playing through things, because you could tell his whatever happened around here was jacked up. And Justin Osborne, who got replaced by Ja'Kai Clark at center, comes in and looks like how a lot of people kind of expected SMU to have Justin Osborne in there. They run power. Rashard Smith hits it for 25 yards. He's gone for a touchdown.
And that was the first play after Ja'Kai Clark came out. And so that was a nice sign to see. But, SMU was up 17-0, but in the back of my mind, and I think a lot of people's minds, it was, okay, well, this offense hasn't put a drive all the way together to get into the end zone yet. And so once they did, and it was capped off by that Rashard Smith touchdown, that settled nerves, and SMU was able to prove. And that was the beginning of a plethora of touchdowns by the offense. They had a great game, ran for over 225 yards. And it was it was a complete performance.
41 points in the first half, and we'll kind of dive down into that just a little bit more. Eric McAllister gets a 19-yard touchdown, which was they were clearly, they did not have a call in. Ahmad Walker's over there looking for it. They were able to capitalize, and you gotta. I don't know what the situation is there for SMU's defense in terms of what they should be in, but it's not. The slow mesh there worked perfectly for TCU, and he was wide open, touchdown. And that came right after, I believe, that pass interference call that they were pretty hot about, called on Brandon Crosley. And then one of TCU's touchdowns as well was kind of aided by a pick play too. That Savion Williams kind of picked whoever the receiver was that caught it, picked up a first down. They were able to score, and SMU gets the ball back and goes on a drive and a half to what we thought would cap the first half. They got the ball at 4:52, and someone on the message board, and it's okay. Like you're. I could see the idea of, hey, milk the clock a little bit more and all those things, but Rhett said it after the game. They were playing, to win. They're going about their business, worried about SMU, and Jordan Hudson, every TCU fan's favorite Mustang, gets a touchdown. Great play call, third down play. SMU had picked up a first down on basically a draw by Brashard Smith on third down. Fast forward a couple plays, and they do a very safe call, get Kevin out of the pocket, and he throws it on a rope to where only Jordan Hudson could catch it right at the goal line.
And that draw was on, I believe, a 3rd down and 12. And this SMU offensive line did a great job creating holes for whoever was in that running back.
Yeah.
LJ Johnson gets injured. I don't know if Coach Lashley updated during the press conference, but before he got injured, he was falling forwards and getting almost 5 yards a carry. And then you saw Brashard Smith take over right at the end of that first half, of course, on that 3rd and 12. And then on that last drive where SMU's handing the ball off, probably thinking they're taking it into the locker room up 10. Well, he takes it almost or around 30 yards, and SMU's in business.
Yeah, and so then they get the ball back, and what a play by Brashard Smith to set SMU up, and Colin Rogers drills a field goal, go up 41-21 at the half. You're feeling pretty good, but you know that's only 20 points. TCU, allowed a 21-point comeback against UCF. Football is a long game, and that's why, as you go through it, you try to pick up how things are going a little bit and try to, remind yourself of that. But football is 60 minutes. It's a grind, and it's very hard to, keep your guys level when, things are going so well. They obviously had all the momentum going in the half, and then they came out and TCU was able to go right down the field, and they score. And this is where things get squirrely here.
Yep.
Sonny Dykes is pissed and goes off on the refs because they, as Rhett did say in his press conference, they tackled Smoke. He kind of looked at it like they tackled him. And so Sonny is pissed about that. Kept going, I think. And I think I've seen this once or twice when Sonny was he was at SMU. Sometimes it's not even the play after or right after the play. It's 2 plays later where he's still drilling the official and finally gets the flag. And it killed it didn't kill TCU on that drive they scored, but he gets ejected. And I don't know if at that point he was kind of like, what the hell's going on? You know what? Try to fire up the team by what did he say to you?
Well, he said that he understood why he got the first penalty. He said that was fine, but he said he really just didn't understand why he got the second penalty, and he said it was unwarranted that he got kicked out of the game. Not going to say I agree or disagree. I wasn't on the field to hear all he was saying, but it felt like as TCU did go down and score on that drive, but for the remainder of the game, just felt like TCU wasn't thinking straight, maybe didn't have their heart in the game. They're dropping passes that are just a little bit behind them, getting a bunch of unsportsmanlike and personal foul penalties. And it set the standard the rest of the way for TCU with the way their head coach was acting. That's how the rest of their team acted.
17 straight points from there for SMU. They respond. They go down the field. Brashard Smith with a heck of a play. Kevin Jennings scrambles. This is where I didn't think, and we can look if Kevin was sacked. I can look real quick here. Kevin was sacked 0 times. Wow. So after last game, you put Kevin in, he's able to extend plays. TCU just had 2 tackles for loss all game, mind you. And this is one where Kevin gets outside the pocket, scrambles. TCU's defense is coming up to play him. He basically is able to fire it over to Brashard Smith, makes a couple men miss, drags a couple into the end zone, and then doesn't he get the 2-point conversion right after this?
He gets a one-hand catch from Brashard Smith.
You want to see Rhett mad? He was mad that the CW's TV truck thing was right there, and they fixed that after that. But go up 49-28. That puts you up 21 points. So that's why they went for 2, just to kind of help themselves there. And then Brashard Smith caps off a touchdown drive to put them up 56-28, and then another Colin Rogers field goal, and away they go.
It's just a dominant display, and something I've seen going back to last year from Kevin Jennings, and it was on that Brashard Smith touchdown, is he loves escaping the pocket, and he'll drag a linebacker to come with him, and he'll find someone over the middle. It's a dangerous play, but he's done it time and time again, multiple times against TCU, did it against BYU, and then against TCU tonight where it really paid off, where found Brashard Smith, and the job was not done when Brashard Smith caught that ball. He was at around the 10-yard line, made a man miss, fell forward on top of 2 TCU defenders, and made his way into the end zone. That was just one of his 4 total touchdowns tonight.
if you would have told me Ken Seals would have finished the game for TCU, it would have been either because of an injury or something, not because SMU was blowing them out. And, Kevin finishes 14 of 19, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, 74% completion percentage. Rashard Smith over 7 yards a carry. LJ Johnson over 7 yards a carry. Keldrick Luster even got in at the end and ran a little bit. I will say Moochie Dixon had a couple of key blocks. Want to shout him out. He's been nicked up a little bit. When you get 3 drives taken from you like that, I mean, it's hard to have a huge passing day. It's hard to have a huge rushing day, but SMU averaged 6.1 yards per play. Not bad. They ran 61 total plays. And they, let's see, time of possession, missing it here. Not too bad. 32-20 to TCU, 27-40 to SMU. Again, TCU had 5 turnovers, just an absolute clinic on how to win a football game in a sense. It's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be perfect. And this is part of the reason why I think Rhett went with Kevin. It's very calm. Rhett even said in his press conference, he said, sometimes I got to kind of want to shake him and just be like, are you there? Because he is so calm. And his, it's funny, Rhett said afterwards, he said the Tulane fumble, because I asked him after Kevin fumbled against TCU, did it kind of bring up similar responses like it happened against Tulane? And for those out there wondering how Rhett feels about that first play against Tulane, he said it wasn't Kevin's fault. That was Kevin's fault. That's why he got on him. But he's just so calm, cool, and collected. And he said he had 1,314 text messages after the game. So either he doesn't answer him and he got more, or he's a pretty popular guy on the hilltop right now.
I think he's got a long night ahead of him of responding to texts. But the passing game was impressive. The rushing game obviously complemented it really well. And, the biggest gain of the night was a 51-yard pass to Romello Brinson, but that was just off a screen pass. That was Brinson's only catch of the night. It was an impressive one with a hurdle at the end to cap it off. But we still haven't seen that alpha wide receiver step up. And at this point, I'm just not sure if we're going to. Brinson led the way with 51 yards on his one catch. Other than that, it was Rashard Smith with 24 receiving yards on 2 catches. And his long was 24. His other catch was, I believe, just got back to the line of scrimmage. But it didn't matter. SMU still found ways to get into the end zone. And I'm not going to say this is SMU's offense at its best, but I think you saw the blueprint of what's to come and what you can expect moving forward.
To use Rhett Lashley's term from last year, this is not the old SMU, this is the new SMU. And I think fans, we tried to prepare them as best we could for whatever Kevin would look like, right? We knew that he would need to improve on certain things. Just wasn't good enough against BYU. They shot themselves in the foot. They did a lot of things wrong. But we said the ground game has got to help. They've been running the ball well. Kevin's got to be able to hit some of those intermediate ones. He's got to be efficient. He's got to play clean, which for the most part he did. And this offense, to have 3 drives taken away and be kind of that close in time of possession, it just shows you that there is a totally different look to SMU. And I think it's just the continued maturation of Rhett and kind of like finding ways to win, because there's been times where in the past SMU's kind of going for it all and it's very choppy offensively. This was not a choppy night offensively. I mean, we can go back one more time and look at the drives, because I want to shout out special teams, but in terms of the drives for SMU, they had, they got the ball and went 3 plays for 31 yards. It's the only 3 and out. And that resulted in that Colin Rogers field goal. They only had one drive ending not the way they necessarily would have wanted it to, with the fumble, and then they had a missed field goal by Colin, and the game was over. You can't be much more efficient offensively with your opportunities you have.
No, not at all. And the defense set them up, of course. And I really think that was a key part of tonight, is when the offense got back out there and they were up 17-0, there was not the need for them to go out there right away, at least, and go score. But every time TCU, tried to get back into this game, this offense delivered and answered. When TCU made it 17-14, SMU went and scored to make it 24-14. And then it was 24-21. SMU went and scored to make it 31-21. That was impressive. It wasn't desperation from the SMU offense, but when the defense needed the SMU offense to respond and build the lead back up, they did.
Want to touch on special teams. I've said all year that SMU special teams are improved. There's little things here and there. And Rhett brought some of the little things up. Bad snap here, some kickoffs out of bounds, a holding here or there. But they've covered really well for the most part. Again, holding gives them a big return. You know, it happens. But I think SMU special teams are such a much better operation, top to bottom. So you got to give a shout out to Coach Cooper, Coach Horney, and just give them their flowers, because TCU at times in this rivalry has really beaten SMU with back-breaking special teams plays, and it didn't happen. Most of the time they didn't really do much with any team's opportunities, and I just think you got to give some kudos to what they're putting together on special teams this year.
Absolutely. They had the punter
Smith, Roger Daniels. I mean,
right. They almost had a kick return. Would have been 99 yards. It was a very close call, but it worked out for SMU because they still went down the field, took time off the clock, and ended up scoring on that drive. But special teams definitely improved. And I thought the coverage on kickoffs was pretty good too for SMU. So just overall well-rounded improvement.
I want to remind people that are listening, you can actually go to ontheponyexpress.com right now, and you can subscribe for 50% off annual subscriptions with code PONYUP. So go there, join our message board. That's where you can submit questions for this week or for this post-game podcast and get them answered live. And I'm telling you, I was looking at our little Google Analytics thing, and it was the page was popping. I mean, I'm like, not trying to get people to subscribe even more by feeding them some BS. It was popping. So hopefully we've got a bunch of new Mustang fans on the board. Met a bunch today. Appreciate everybody who's subscribed. But Dean, let's get into these questions and let's try to go rapid fire. SoCal Pony, how classless was it of Sonny Dykes not to shake Rhett's hand after the game? I don't know if he went out there after. I don't know how that works. I have no idea. All right, Derek McFall, let's talk about him. He's asking about getting meaningless playing time late in the game. Means he's 100% getting his red shirt burned. So here's the thing. Jalen Knighton's out for the year, unfortunately. So I think Red alluded to that. I don't think I'm going to get in trouble by saying that, but he alluded to it on his radio show this week. And so he's going to have to play. I mean, LJ Johnson, kudos to him for, powering through, getting back healthy, and then he gets what sounds like a concussion is what Rhett kind of said. It's not there yet as far as confirmed, but then you have Brashard Smith, and Derek McFall actually played early in the game. He had a couple series or snaps, so he can play in 4 games. I think he's played in 3. I don't think he played against Nevada. I could be wrong on that, but next week we'll find out. I guess if they keep playing him, he's gonna get an opportunity to play a lot, and he deserves it. He's nice. I was talking to Xavier Jones, former SMU running back, during the game, and he was saying, "Hey, these guys from East Texas can go." So I don't think it would be a big deal to burn his red shirt. In fact, for running backs, I encourage them to get reps and build confidence and all those things. Comment 77: how do you feel about finally seeing TCU lose at SMU for the first time since 2005? Man, that's a great stat. We'll pull up some other post-game notes here too. First time to see Rhett get a P4 win. First time to see this team really show up on all sides of the ball against good competition. You want to lead off?
Well, first of all, with that first fact, 2005, that beats me. Born in 2006.
Stop.
So I then went to the game.
So sad right now for me.
In 2021 at TCU. Watched the game in 2019 when they won. But it's nice to defend your home turf for sure. Something SMU's done really well as of late over the last few years. Maybe not against TCU, but overall. But nice to do it against TCU. And again, what could possibly be the last? Well, what is definitely the last iron skillet here at SMU, potentially the last one for a while overall.
Yeah. I think for me, watching this game unfold the way it did, I feel very happy for Rhett. I mean, quite honestly, it takes a lot to build a program, and it takes a lot to take over in the situation he did a few years ago, where all your roster is getting recruited and had been getting recruited for multiple weeks before Sonny ended up in Fort Worth. And to navigate that storm, and you probably missed some opportunities to bring in even more help with that. And to get to a bowl game in his first year, and to then build the defense up in that second off season and continue to find pieces to try and put this team in the right position for the opportunity to end up going to a power conference. And he knew that SMU was always striving for that. And he didn't know if it would pan out, didn't know if it would work, but he was hopeful, just like everybody else. And they kept chipping away at it. And during that time, for them to be close in some games and then to be embarrassed in some against, power, opponents.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me that SMU wasn't competitive. I think fans sometimes look at games and they see the end result and they see maybe a final score even. SMU could have beaten OU. They could have beaten Maryland. They could have beaten BC. They had opportunities, and it's on the coaches and it's on the players to find those ways. But this is a team that wasn't far off from getting there. And so for me to cover it, I mean, I'm happy. I think it helps business, and as an alum, it's great, and all those things. So I think that was key. I said it before the game. I do not want to be on the message board if they lose, and I was serious. But for Rhett, I think this is a big moment for him. It took a lot of balls to bench Preston Stone, and go with Kevin, and I asked him about the kind of the how Kevin is leading up to the prep, and he got emotional talking about it, and he got emotional talking about Preston and how he's a winner and how he's been a good teammate through it all, which is true. And you could tell, I think, the last 2 weeks, and to come away with a win for this program at SMU in the home stadium is just huge. And so, I mean, in terms of how I feel about it, SMU's in a power conference now. So they're all big games. They're all games that can impact fans week to week because they matter that much more. The days of mediocrity and combined with, lack of care are over. I mean, I've got people that, I went to school with or, have met through the years. I mean, everybody thinks I'm a ticket broker now. And so to win a game like this is really, really cool for a multitude of reasons. But I think in particular, this coaching staff, it's pretty cool to see them, get that win that way. So it's pretty nice. Old Lax guy didn't see how the Toads covered RJ Maryland. Is that why he didn't see the ball as much as he should? I don't know. Well, I guess not to use coach speak, but trying to get through these relatively quickly. Just gonna have to go back watch the film. And some games with tight end, I mean, that's it. Like they take them away.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of it.
I will say really quick, he caught all three of his targets. So whether they were looking his way often, I'm not sure. We'll have to go back and look, but he did as much as he could tonight.
I'm not sure what Sonny said to get ejected. Is there steam coming out of his ears? Probably. There's going to be a lot. I'm interested to see our podcast with Hayden Howerton next week. I think someone's going to be pretty happy over there.
He might be able to give us some insights of what could be said. So
I did see Ben Sparks on the field after the game, and he said, "Thanks for picking us." And I don't know, Ben, if he was serious or not, or giving me some grief. But I was confident they can win this game. I didn't want to be a total homer and pick them after saying like, look, they hadn't shown it yet, but they've got they've got skins on the wall, and Hayden said I have to pick Florida State next week though to try and tee it up right. All right. Does the game get played next year? I say yes. Challenge met. Injuries. It's impossible to report on all of them, but my count, they lost Kobe Wilson, Isaiah Wachovia, LJ Johnson, Ja'Kai Clark. Ja'Kai Clark returned. LJ Johnson was held out. Yep. Isaiah Wachovia, did he come back in? I'm not sure.
Too sure.
And then Kobe Wilson got nicked up. I think the game was fairly, out of hand, and they didn't need to probably put him back in. So we'll see. We'll find out on Tuesday when Rhett talks. Rhett did have concepts of a plan. That's fantastic. What hotel do you suggest we book for the national championship? I don't even know where it is. I'm just focused on trying to block out the schedule for December playoff games, I guess. One of the recruits actually said if you want to be on the Pony Express, we have recruits reactions. One of the recruits said that he expects SMU in the 12-team playoff. So
Wow.
Pressure's on.
Okay.
Any particular reason mop-up went to Luster over Preston Stone? I think this is a good question, and I think it's a question for Red on Tuesday. I'll say this. After the decision and emotions and all of that, I don't necessarily – all right, let me take this back. I think it's just straight up, and Rhett kind of said this, so if you believe him, but he said this when they went through it and made the decision. They're going to need Preston Stone at some point.
Yep.
Just like he said they were going to need Kevin Jennings at some point this year.
Right.
And they did. And the way TCU was kind of playing at times at the end there, I don't think you want Preston Stone in there taking unnecessary hits. If he gets hurt and then Kevin gets hurt, I mean, you showed how you can be a really strong football team.
Yeah.
You don't need to all of a sudden be sitting there saying, oh, man, played the backup, got him hurt. Kevin gets hurt. Now you're playing, no offense, Keldrick Luster. So probably a safety thing in that situation. All right. H-Town Pony, what's your evaluation of Kevin? We win is the ultimate marker, but what are your initial thoughts post-game?
I thought it was a composed performance. That's kind of what you expected from him. We didn't see the deep ball at all tonight, but we didn't expect that. And he was still successful, even though I would assume the TCU defense didn't really expect the deep shots either. So he was able to use his legs. I will say we've seen him not be able to utilize the quarterback slide really at all in his career. He's looked awkward doing it. And he's taken some big hits because he's not comfortable using the slide. So he's got to try and figure that out for his own safety and for his own health. But passing the ball, it was good. There were some quick out routes and screens, but overall a solid performance.
Show business. Our camera battery or something must have died. But anyway, we're on the back half of our Q&A here with our subscribers at ontheponyexpress.com. I think for me, I agree with everything you said. Just his composure is what stood out. 74% completion percentage. I mean, what more do you want? I mean, OU benched Jackson Arnold tonight. I just heard that. I don't know how the rest of it went, but I know they benched him. It was on Twitter, so it's got to be true. And Tennessee leads 25-9. So that's a 4 or 5 star that OU's invested a lot in. And if any of my OU buddies are listening, I'm pouring one out for you as the Vols are look like they're going to finish this off 25-15. OU just scored, I think. But I said this about Kevin. You want to see him play clean. For the most part, he did. You wanted to see him be accurate. He pretty much was. 74% completion percentage. It's great. And you had to win this game.
Yeah.
I mean, don't care. Don't care how it looks. Don't care what you need to do overall. But this is a game that they had to win, and they did. And that's what Kevin Jennings is. He's a winner. And it didn't go their way against BC. It probably should have. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. But he goes to Tulane. He's unfazed. I couldn't believe some of the narratives going into this game, like SMU wasn't going to score touchdowns. It's like, what defense did you see from TCU to think that, first of all?
Yeah.
And secondly, the odds that SMU would go 2 straight games without a touchdown, maybe we're talking, 220, the end of the June Jones era, some of the dark days in the past. It's just not going to happen. So this program with Kevin Jennings at the helm, it has a lot of positive days ahead. I don't think it's ever going to be sexy, but Kevin Jennings is just out doing his job. He's just calm and low key as it gets.
And you saw the blueprint today. Again, this is what maybe you don't expect 66 points every game, but the foundation was laid tonight for sure.
Yeah, just think if Colin Rogers hits that field goal after he gets nicked up, 69 points. So anyway, that would have been nice too. But we talked about injuries. I don't know why Jennings is so bad at throwing the ball. 74% completion percentage. Again, not getting the ball down the field. I think that has to do with both receivers and Kevin.
Yep.
And what Rhett is schemed up for him worked. We talked about it. 40-plus carries. Had to get there. They did. 42 carries on the night is the sweet spot for Rhett Lashley. Let's see. What else? Anything else out there? SMU is trying to force it early with quarterback keepers. Do you think Lashley would come and let his running backs do their job? Once Rashard Smith got going today, the offense looks 1,000% better. I mean, I think you're teeing things up. I think that made them respect Kevin's, legs a little bit more. So, I mean, I don't know. It worked out. They had 7+ yards of carry, and I think if you know that they're just going to feed him down after down, I mean, it's just not really the offense. I don't know. I mean, I have no problem running Kevin a little bit early to get a defense maybe looking a certain way.
And again, to try and cover sideline to sideline the entire width of the field too, not just running it up the middle with the running back. So
yeah. I noticed the defense seemed to slow it down in the third, especially corners. Does that come with them being on the field for so long during the game, or is it something that could be fixed? Look, I don't think the front seven slowed down. No. I mean, they like you said, stopped the run really well. But the second, the corners really, I mean, someone's got to be fixed in terms of like the explosives they allowed. I mean, they allowed double moves, they had busts, so they've got to clean some things up there. I mean, I don't think that's being tired. I just think that you got to credit TCU a little bit too. I mean, they felt like they could take advantage of SMU with some double moves.
Yeah.
Are we favored versus FSU next weekend? I don't know if it's out. It is. Let's see. Vegas Insider says SMU is not favored. Florida State -3.5. So
interesting.
There we go. Let's see. Why are we running reverse flea flickers up 30 late in the third? I think you want to think, why did SMU run the swinging gate against Houston Christian? Granted, it was early in the game. They probably shouldn't have done it early, but you put it out there on film. So,
well, and I think, what happened last year in Fort Worth with Coach Dykes, running up the score and calling timeouts. Why not have a little bit of fun when you're up 30 in the fourth quarter?
Yep. Yeah, it's not fun to be my buddy Jeremy Clark over there at Horns Frog Blitz or whatever. They do a great job over there. I saw Jeremy. I feel for him. I've been on the other side of this rivalry when it goes poorly. Horn Frog Blitz, I believe it is. How do we regroup and respond in that game after an emotional win against TCU, play Florida State? This is from Peruna08. I want to give him a shout out. He stuck with me. He said he's drinking $500 bourbon, so having a great night.
Wow.
But you've got to just put it behind you. It's a 24-hour rule. I mean, I don't know how SMU does it, but they've got to. That's pretty much the reason. And I think Kevin, at least leading the offense, will be able to do that. So, how many glasses of wine did Bill Armstrong have from 6 to 8 p.m.? Bill's usually on the field, so I don't know if he was up in the box in the second half, but he's usually on the field not drinking wine. So let's see. Yep, Dean is not a red shirt. His red shirt's burned. All right, here we go. This is it. So thank you guys for hanging in there with us. Want to remind you guys to go to mosquitoshield.com and check out ontheponyexpress.com as well. At Mosquito Shield, at moshield.com. Use code PonyUp when you book with them to get their best pricing. And then go to ontheponyexpress.com, code PonyUp, 50% off annual subscriptions. Jump on us on the site right now and get with it because it's going to be a fun week. Thankfully, SMU beats TCU 66-42, or else it would have been brutal. But, Dean, congratulations on being 1-0 as a student in the Iron Skillet. Everybody can be happy for Dean, and my son Jack is now 1-0 as well. So, with that, guys, we're going to shut this down. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for hanging out with us, and head to roback.com. Use code PonyExpress20 for 20% off your first order. First-time customers only. All right, we'll see y'all next week with another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU_on3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.